All right, so we've mounted the display. Now we're going to connect up the battery wiring. So in general, just want to figure out where we're going to put all of our wiring. I've run it out of here sometimes. It's not a lot of space. I'm going to just run it up next to here. Eventually, I'm going to use a zip tie to hold it, make sure it doesn't contact anything, but generally it's pretty fine. So part of that is now we have the battery connector cable. I left it long intentionally so that you could run it up if you need to, if you put the battery up on your rack, or you can use it here. If you'd like, you can cut it down and resolder the wire to make it shorter so it connects directly in. I'm just going to wrap it around the post. I've done this before. It looks fine. It works fine. And then when I zip tie everything, I'll just make sure I zip tie that in with it so that it stays down and stays out of sight and out of the way. We have the two connectors. We want to make sure that we're doing the red to the red. It's the only way you can go. Oops, before I do that, we want to take our piece of shrink tube and feed it on. And then we want to make sure we just connect it up well. These connectors have worked fine. I haven't had any come loose. They do, you can always just check it. They seem to seat well. Just make sure they snap together completely. There we go. And then we can see it's together. No gaps, no, you can't see any metal. And then we're just going to slide our heat shrink back down over it. Make sure you're not catching on anything. Just work it down across. Got it halfway. I'm just going to continue to push. Straighten it out. We're getting there. Now we want to come around the corner a little bit with it. Continue to slide that on a little bit further. Now we've got everything pretty well covered up. I'm going to continue just a little bit further because it could shrink back a little bit on me. Make sure I get good coverage on both sides. We want the heat shrink to be as tight as we can going on so that it shrinks down to the size that we want. We're going to just work it back this direction. There we go. So then we're going to go with our shrink gun. I have it turned up to 5 or 6 on my gun. Yeah. Not only holds the connectors together, keeps water and moisture out. I'm going to continue to shrink this side down a little bit, I think, just to get as much I can. So that should keep that holding on pretty good. We can now put our battery on. We need to connect our cable up to run up to the display and then attach our speedometer. So we have 2 arrows on our connectors. We just want to line those up. Work them gently together. Don't want to bend anything. Make sure it seals tight. We're going to run that up and probably maybe up and over and under. And then it should have enough room that we can now connect to the display. So on the display side, we have a little tab on the inside. We have a little notch on here. We also have alignment arrows for that. If I can find them on here. Let's see. Right there and right there. Bring those together. We're going to use our guard to hold the wire. So we're going to see how much wire we have left. Make sure we can turn both directions. This is getting held up. That should be plenty. So I'm going to take some of this back. It means we have about a loop here. So we can take this apart. Maybe get a loop going in here. Line up the arrows once again. Oh, right there. Find it right there. Bring them together, and then I'll just zip tie this all in here so that it stays. We'll see that in a minute. We'll still pull this up a little bit tighter. That'll run up with those. That looks pretty good. Once we zip tie this all in, it'll all stay out of the way. We have one last thing. We're going to put the speed sensor on. So first part of this, we have a piece here that has a magnet on one side and a slot on the other. We're just going to pick a spoke. Any spoke will do. And we're going to tighten this down on it. Right now we're just going to do hand tight. See where that intersects here? We're going to have a sensor here. So probably want to back it down toward the base here so that it's at a point that's pretty close. With the sensor in there, have to remember this sticks up a bit. See how tight it is. Maybe it is better up here. You can put it slightly off center, but I prefer to. So yeah, we're going to slide it up here this way further. And I'd probably, if I could, put it back this way. So that what we want to set it up for is that the magnet passes this part of it. You can see a little arrow notched right there. That's where the sensor actually is. It's not up here. It's back here. I've run it intentionally a little bit backwards because I then plan to loop it back around and bring it up. We can do it this way, but then I'm worried about the tire. So we actually have extra cable. It'll fit just fine this way. And then we can plug it in up here. The way we mount this, 2 zip ties. Okay, we're going to take 2 zip ties. I'm going to include those in there. All right, simple as feeding it around, cinching it down. This spins so we can adjust that after. We can decide where we want this thing to end. So we can cut that off. I think if we're up in here, we're still in the zone. All right, so we can get the other one on. Feed that one around. We can kind of hide these underneath a little bit. Hide them in back a little bit. Nothing's hitting. That's nice and close. All right, now we just have to manage the wire. For this wire, what I'm thinking of doing is coming up the back side, inside the sprocket and everything on this side, up around the tube there. So then this will come up around the bin a bit, and we should be able to connect it. Got a flat in here, and then we've got an arrow above the flat. So we just want to line those up and get it from the other side so that you can see what I'm doing. Flat on flat, plug the 2 together. Now I just have to manage the wires. See where we want this. That looks like it works pretty good. We have our wire guard here. So we'll put our wire guard on. Should control the wire attached. Make sure our sensor comes through where we want it to, which it really doesn't. There we go. More aligned with the arrow. We can take a screwdriver and just make sure it's tight. And then it comes, make sure you get to the sensor. Everything's set up, should be protected. It's even held tight there. So we're going to zip tie this up a little bit. Put our front wire guard on, and we should be good to go. I just use a little end of a razor blade. Gotta peel that up a little bit. Can pull that off. Peel that side off. And then what we want to do is this wire is going to want to stick to the tape. So you want to make sure you trap it up in the top end. Figure out. So I'm getting it caught on the tape back here. Just want to make sure I'm not. Sure I'm not in the tape. And then we're just going to press it to the bottom. The wire should move back and forth easily. Press it up, and our wire is protected. We just need now to zip tie the last part of this. I wanted this to be kind of got stuck in there somewhere. Oh, there it goes. It's down at the bottom that it got stuck. We want to be able to pull that wire up so we have knots of slack up here. There we go. And then we keep the wire out of the way at the bottom here. Looks good. Couple of zip ties. Hold this all together. Hold it nice and tight. Trim the zip tie off. Alright. Now we can take and mount our battery, and everything's good to go. Bike's complete. We still need to go through and check all the settings on the display, and then we should be ready to ride. Make sure all the wires are where you want it to be. Tighten out of the way. That looks good.